they go through boot camp together, they fight together, they work. Teamwork is just part of the military culture. And I dare say there are great friendships across racial lines formed in the military. So this notion that the military needs to go through the critical race training theory and the DEI is just, it's not just a distraction, it's destructive. So,
amen. Well, especially of unit cohesion, which, as you say, Scott, is absolutely critical to its military readiness and deterrent capabilities. And as I would argue that when you talk about putting into place things like quotas for promotion or even recruitment, you're absolutely at odds with the whole idea of a meritocracy, which is really what has served the military so well in this country for so long. Huh?
This is one of the primary goals of the cultural Marxist revolution, is to destroy meritocracy.
Yeah, well, and destroy the U.S. military most especially,
Yes,
I think, for obvious reasons.
Destroy meritocracy.
Yeah.
In the military, you destroy the military.
Yeah. So, Scott, one of the things that this is manifesting, and going back to our previous conversation about the contribution the South has made to the military over the years, I was told the other day that one of the places where the impact of readiness shortfalls is most marked is in the South, where those families of young men and women who would otherwise serve, many of them families of military veterans, by the way, are simply not turning up. They're being told by their, previous generations, don't go into the military under these circumstances. It's hard to overstate the impact that will have on an all-volunteer force, isn't it?
Well, this really accounts for the recruiting shortfalls that all divisions of the armed services, all branches are affected by recruiting problems. We have the worst problem of recruiting in 48 years now, and it's largely because of the cultural Marxist critical race theory, diversity and equity inclusion. The de-meritocracy of the military makes the military unappealing to many people.
So, Scott, this brings us to a critical question. Should the United States military have as its top officer a fellow like General C.Q. Brown, currently the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, who not only champions this cultural Marxist agenda, but in many ways is an exemplar of it, certainly an enforcer of it on his own service, and it's been just absolutely devastating in terms of its readiness and its warfighting capabilities at the moment, which are rated by the Heritage Foundation as, quote, very weak, unquote. Your thoughts?
That's right. In being in charge of the Air Force, the ranking of the Air Force relative to the other branches of the military declined year over year over year until now it's at the bottom of the heap. So why, under his leadership, would we elevate him to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff is beyond belief.
It's failing up, as they say.
It's failing up, but it's being driven by the race issue. Because there's preferential treatment towards blacks. We know this has come out of our heritage and affirmative action and so forth. It's very hard to criticize. Nobody wants to criticize C.Q. Brown, but they must. They must look at his record. They must look at what he represents. They must put him in the context of the time in which we're living. We are facing a mortal enemy in communist China. The CCP and its military are formidable now. While we've been, barely staying even, they've been building and building and building. And we need strong leadership. And peace through strength works, and the military is now weak, and the Chinese perceive this.
And they are emboldened by it, unfortunately.
They are.
Scott Powell, thank you for this extraordinarily.
For employment benefits, employment rights. On your DD-214, it said unacceptable conduct. So if an employer asks for your DD-214, and many of them do, they look at that and they see unacceptable conduct, and it's a stigma attached for many of these tens of thousands of service members.
A very complex story, certainly a story which has involved you exerting tremendous amount of courage at this point. So thank you very much for sharing your story with us
Thanks for having
on
me.
Weekly Briefing.
God bless.
That's all the time we have. Remember to watch Weekly Briefing every Saturday and Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern, or you can catch the latest episode now on iHeartRadio. Remember to download OAN Live and watch One American News on your favorite streaming device.